Our teen daughter started wearing a hijab. One morning, she walked outside and found our fence spray painted with the words, "Wrong block." The police called it vandalism. We called it terror. We checked our camera, blurry figure. But then I noticed something in the reflection of a neighbor's car window. A logo. On a hoodie. From our street's bowling league. When I brought it up at the next meeting, he said, "Maybe if she didn't stand out, no one would target her." That's when my wife pulled out the footage and played it in front of everyone. My name's Alan, and I live with my wife Noor and our daughter Layla in a neighborhood just outside Bloomington, Indiana. We've lived here a long time, 15 years now. We're one of the few brown families in the area, and honestly, we always thought people were kind enough. Not overly warm, but polite. The kind of place where folks wave from their porches, where everyone keeps their lawns trimmed and shows up to the high school football games. That kind of town. Layla is 16 now. She's sharp, straight A's, funny, a little shy until she knows you, then she opens up. Last year, around springtime, she told us she wanted to start wearing a hijab. Noor wore one when I met her. She took it off for a while during her 20s, but started wearing it again after Layla was born. We talked a lot about it in our house. We never pushed Layla. We just told her, if you choose to wear it, make sure you understand why you're doing it, and be ready for the way people might treat you. She thought about it for months before deciding. The first week was fine. A few people looked longer than usual at the grocery store. One girl at school made a weird comment about Halloween coming early. But Layla brushed it off. She's tougher than people think. Then, one morning, everything changed. I was making coffee when I heard Layla yell from the front door. I walked outside and froze. Spray paint. Bright red. All across our wooden fence, in huge capital letters. Wrong block. Noor came out next, still in her robe. Layla just stood there, staring. I put my arm around her. She didn't cry. Didn't say anything. But her whole body was stiff. Like something had snapped inside her. I called the police right away. A patrol car came by about 20 minutes later. Young officer. Name tag said Drew. He was polite. Took some photos, wrote everything down, asked if we had cameras. I said yes, we had a small motion-activated camera over the garage. It was mostly for packages and raccoons. He asked to see it. We pulled the footage up inside. 3:27 a.m. A figure, walking fast across our lawn. Hoodie pulled up. Spray can in hand. The image was blurry, but the way they moved, hurried but careful. Told me they knew where the camera was. Drew nodded slowly, like he'd seen this before. "We'll log it as vandalism," he said. I stared at him. "You don't think this is a hate crime?" He hesitated. "Hard to say. Unless they left something more specific, it's tough to prove intent. Could just be random." We knew it wasn't random. Not after Layla started wearing the hijab. Not after. Wrong block. After Drew left, I felt helpless. But Noor wasn't done. She watched that video over and over. She slowed it down, zoomed in. Every frame. That's when she spotted something. A reflection. It was barely a flicker, but it was there, on the side window of our neighbor's car parked across the street. When the figure passed by, the camera caught just enough light to bounce off the glass. We paused it. Rewound. Paused again. And there it was, a Hoodie logo. Mill Creek Bowlers League. We'd seen that hoodie before. There were only about a dozen of us in the league. We met every Thursday at the local alley, Mill Creek Bowl. Everyone wore their hoodies, especially in the cooler months. They were black with a red and white pin logo. It was clear. Not perfect, but clear enough. That week's bowling night came fast. It was Noor's idea to go. I didn't want to. I was too angry. I didn't trust myself not to blow up. But she said, "No. We go. And we show them what we saw." The league met in the rec center, next to the fire station. Just a handful of tables, fold-out chairs, and a whiteboard with everyone's scores. The usual small-town vibe, chili in crock pots, someone's kid running around, oldies playing low on the radio. People greeted us like normal. Like nothing had happened. Craig was there. Craig lives 2 doors down from us. White guy, mid-40s, runs a roofing company. He always wore that same hoodie. Big gut. Loud laugh. He'd always been friendly to my face, but I noticed he stopped saying much once Layla started wearing her hijab. Just grunts. No eye contact. I stood up halfway through the meeting. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "Some of you probably heard about what happened to our house." A few people nodded. We were vandalized. Spray paint. Big red letters, wrong block. Middle of the night. No one said anything. I went on. We have a camera. The figure kept their face hidden. But we caught a reflection. In our neighbor's car window. It was a logo. Noor pulled out her phone. She hit play. The room went dead silent. The video was grainy, but the hoodie stood out. The exact hoodie half the people in that room were wearing. That's when Craig, sitting at the far end of the table, arms crossed, said, "Maybe if she didn't stand out so much, no one would target her." I felt everything inside me go hot. Noor just looked at him and said, "Excuse me?" Craig didn't blink. "I'm just saying, when people wear stuff like that around here, it gets attention. Not always good attention." A few people shifted in their seats. Someone muttered, "Jesus, Craig." I turned to the league president, Harold, who was sitting at the front. "You gonna say something?" I asked. He cleared his throat, then looked down at the table. That was the moment I realized, these people weren't going to help us. They were going to protect each other. We left that night without another word. But Noor wasn't done. Neither was I. After that night at the bowling league, things got cold real fast. No one called. No one checked in. Even Harold, who used to send out weekly texts about scores and potlucks, went quiet. The league kept meeting, but we stopped going. Noor and I agreed, we weren't going to sit in a room with people who looked at our daughter like she was the problem. Layla started coming home from school quieter than usual. She didn't complain, but Noor noticed how she stopped hanging out with her usual friends. She said she was tired. But I knew better. One night, I found her sitting in the garage, lights off, just scrolling through her phone in the dark. I sat next to her. She didn't look at me. "Do you want to talk about it?" She shrugged. "They call me ISIS in the hallway." I felt something break inside me. Noor filed a complaint with the school the next day. Principal said they'd look into it. But nothing changed. One teacher even told Layla, "If you don't make a big deal out of it, it'll stop." Noor started documenting everything. Names, times, what was said, what was done. She wasn't just a mom, she became a damn investigator. And then we got a break. Our other neighbor, Mr. Brent, retired firefighter, lives directly across the street, came by one morning holding a USB stick. "I didn't know what was going on," he said, "but I've had a dashcam running in my truck. It's always on when it's parked. Something told me to check the night you were hit. I plugged it into my laptop. 3:25 a.m. A figure walking toward our house. This time, not blurry. This time, clear enough to see his face for 1 second when he turned toward Brent's truck. Craig. Hoodie. Gloves. Spray can in his right hand. The damn bowling league hoodie. And he looked dead into the camera for half a second before turning back. We had him. Noor didn't say a word. She just stood up, grabbed her keys, and drove to the police station. We handed over the footage. They couldn't ignore it this time. Craig was brought in for questioning 2 days later. Charged with property damage. Misdemeanor. That's it. We asked about hate crime charges. The DA said it was hard to prove intent, even with the spray paint. We begged them to see what was obvious to anyone with a brain. But they didn't. Craig got a $500 fine and 30 hours of community service. That was it. I wanted to scream. To break something. But Noor just looked at me and said, "They think this is over." It wasn't. She had already started contacting local news. She showed them the footage. The spray paint. The police report. The response from the school. Everything. One station picked it up. Then another. Within a week, our story was on regional TV. That's when the calls started coming in. The school board. The police chief. The mayor's office. Everyone wanted to talk. But Noor didn't want their words. She wanted action. And then, just when we thought the story couldn't go any deeper, we got an anonymous letter in the mail. Typed. No return address. Inside, a printed photo. Grainy. Looked like it was taken through a window. Layla, sitting in our kitchen. The message underneath. She still doesn't belong. Noor sat down hard on the floor. I stood there frozen. They weren't done with us. Now it was personal. We took that letter straight to the police. They opened an investigation, but we could tell they weren't moving fast. The officer we spoke with said it could be a prank. And that, until there's a direct threat, there wasn't much they could do. I said, "So someone's taking pictures through my window of my daughter, and that's not a threat?" He didn't have an answer. That night, I installed 2 more cameras. One on the porch, one facing the backyard. I also put up motion lights and started sleeping with a baseball bat next to the bed. Nor didn't argue. The media didn't know about the letter, not yet. Nor wanted to hold on to that, just in case we needed to go public again. Meanwhile, Layla barely slept. She moved her bed to the far corner of her room, away from the windows. Every time the wind rattled the shutters, she flinched. I was starting to feel powerless again. And I don't do well with helpless. So I went back through everything. Every angle. Every moment since this started. And then something clicked. Craig. He didn't act alone. That much was obvious now. There was a second figure in the dashcam footage. Just behind Craig. It was subtle. He was always in the shadow, always just out of frame, but the rhythm of the steps didn't lie. Someone else was with him that night. I showed it to Noor. She spotted something I missed. In one frame, when the figure turned, the porch light caught a badge. A reflective patch on the arm. It wasn't a police badge. It was a security logo. The kind worn by campus security. And that narrowed things down. Mill Creek only had one place with campus security, the community college. Noor remembered a name, Blake Warner. He was Craig's nephew. Lived 2 blocks over. Worked night shifts as campus security. Always hung out with Craig at the league meetings, but never bowled. Just hung around, drank soda, watched people. We dug into Blake. Turns out, Blake had a history. Back in high school, he got caught tagging a rival school's gym with racial slurs. Juvenile record. Sealed. But Noor's friend who worked in the school admin pulled some strings. Yeah, she told us. He's got a history of this kind of crap. But his uncle kept bailing him out. We printed everything. The photo of the second figure. Blake's name. His job. His connection to Craig. The sealed record. Everything. Noor didn't go back to the police this time. She went to the press. The headline that hit the local papers that Sunday? Hate crime in Mill Creek, vandalism, threats, and the bowling league connection. And under that, a still from the dashcam. A zoomed-in frame showing both Craig and the second shadow behind him. The town exploded. People started talking. Not whispers anymore, loud, angry, public conversation. Parents called the school. Protesters stood outside the police station. Someone spray-painted, "Protect all kids," on the sidewalk in front of City Hall. And then Craig got fired from his roofing company. Turns out, the owner's daughter wore a hijab too. They hadn't spoken in years, but once the story broke, she called her father. Blake? He lost his job at the community college. The security chief released a statement saying Blake violated the public trust. But even that wasn't enough. Because 2 nights after the article ran, someone threw a brick through our front window. It landed right in the middle of our living room. Shattered glass everywhere. Noor was upstairs. I was in the kitchen. Layla was on the couch. Thank God it missed her. The brick was wrapped in newspaper. Inside it, another note. Leave. That was it. Just one word. We didn't sleep that night. And that's when Noor said it. We're not leaving. But we're not waiting anymore, either. The next morning, she called her cousin Amir, who worked with a civil rights group out of Chicago. Within 48 hours, they sent a legal team to our town. They didn't just want justice for the brick or the paint, they wanted the system that allowed this to happen. They filed complaints with the Department of Justice. Filed lawsuits. One against the local police department for negligence. Another against the school district for failing to protect Layla. A third, personally, against Craig and Blake for hate-based harassment. The lawsuits got attention. National attention. Our quiet little town. Suddenly on the news. Craig's house got tagged. Not by us, people we didn't even know. His front lawn got flooded with signs that read "Hate lives here." He cried on the local news, said he was being persecuted. Said his whole life was being ruined over one mistake. But he didn't seem to care when my daughter was the one scared to walk past the window. Blake disappeared for a while. Left town. No one saw him for weeks. But then came the part that really broke things open. Layla's phone buzzed one afternoon. Unknown number. Airdrop video. It was a selfie, Blake, laughing in a car, holding a spray can. Wrong block, bitch, he said in the video. He sent it to the wrong device. He meant to send it to a friend. Instead, it hit Layla's phone because she was standing at the same bus stop, and her airdrop was on. We had everything now. Video confession. Proof of coordination. Evidence of threats. The DA reopened the case. This time, with real charges. Craig was arrested for hate-motivated vandalism and conspiracy. Blake got hit with harassment, terroristic threats, and a hate crime enhancement. But here's the thing. It wasn't just about them anymore. Because in the middle of all this, Noor found something I had forgotten. 3 weeks before all this started, I was at a league meeting, and Craig had brought up some article he read online. About immigrants pushing their beliefs. I had laughed, just to keep the peace. Didn't say a word. Just nodded and let it pass. Noor showed me the text I sent her that night. Craig running his mouth again. Whatever. Not worth arguing. She looked me in the eye and said, "You saw this coming. And you did nothing." She was right. I let it slide. Because I didn't want drama. Because I thought ignoring it would make it go away. That night, I sat down with Layla. Told her I was sorry. Told her I should have stood up sooner. That I let my silence send the wrong message. That I'd never do it again. She didn't say anything for a minute. Then she said, "Thanks, Dad. But it's not your fault they're cowards. The lawsuits are still going. The school's settled out of court. The police department is under review. Craig is facing real prison time. Blake's trial is next month. But we're still here. Still in the same house." And every morning, Layla walks outside in her hijab. Head high. Shoulders back. Our new fence? It's painted with her favorite quote. Still here. And now the whole damn block knows it.